Join us on Patreon and become part of our journey to uncover history's untold stories. Your support helps us create in-depth content, bring hidden narratives to life, and keep history alive for everyone.
Nestled high in the mountainous terrain of the Horn of Africa, in the ancient land of Ethiopia, lies a spiritual legacy so profound, so mysteriously rich, that it continues to baffle, mesmerize, and provoke theologians and historians alike. This legacy is the Ethiopian Bible, often considered the oldest and most complete biblical canon known to mankind. Long overshadowed by Western narratives of Christian history, the Ethiopian scriptures stand apart not merely for their age, but for their content, complexity, and the staggering implications they hold for the very foundations of Christianity as propagated by Rome. This is not merely a tale of theology or scripture. This is a story of power, politics, historical silences, and centuries-old fears cloaked behind ecclesiastical protocol. At the heart of this quiet storm lies a compelling question. Why does the Vatican, the central authority of the Roman Catholic Church, seem to fear the Ethiopian Bible? To understand the tension, one must first unravel the ancient tapestry of Ethiopian Christianity. The Kingdom of Aksum, a predecessor to modern-day Ethiopia, officially adopted Christianity in the 4th century, around the same time as the Roman Empire. However, Ethiopian Christians did not receive their doctrine filtered through Latin or Greek interpretations. Instead, they translated their scriptures from ancient Semitic tongues, especially from Guizi, which remains a liturgical language of the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church. Unlike the later Western canon, which was finalized by ecumenical councils under Roman influence, the Ethiopian canon absorbed and preserved a vastly larger number of books, many of which are considered apocryphal or even heretical by Roman standards. The Ethiopian Bible includes up to 81 books, far exceeding the 66 of the Protestant Bible or the 73 of the Catholic canon. This expanded scripture contains texts like the Book of Enoch, Jubilees, 1 Maccabean, 2 Maccabean, and 3 Maccabean, which differ entirely from the Maccabees known in Catholic tradition, and other lost or forbidden gospels that offer drastically different narratives of divine origin, angelic hierarchies, and eschatology. Perhaps no text draws the Vatican's quiet unease more than the Book of Enoch, a document that portrays a complex story of fallen angels, celestial rebellions, and the origins of evil in a way that challenges the simplified narrative adopted by the Roman tradition. For centuries, the Book of Enoch was considered lost to history, referred to only in passing by early church fathers such as Tertullian and Clement of Alexandria. Though once revered, it vanished from the Western canon, its presence erased during the theological cleansing of the early Christian councils, particularly at Nicaea and subsequent synods that prioritized theological unity over scriptural diversity. Yet in Ethiopia, Enoch remained, studied, revered, and integrated deeply into spiritual understanding. When Western scholars finally came across an intact copy of the Book of Enoch in the 18th century, preserved in an Ethiopian monastery, it sent ripples through the academic world. Here was a book quoted in the canonical Epistle of Jude, yet entirely removed from the Western Bible. Why was it removed? And why was it preserved in Ethiopia, a land often deemed peripheral by Roman ecclesiastical tradition? These questions pose a severe challenge to the Vatican's narrative of scriptural completeness and theological authority. If the Vatican acknowledges the legitimacy of the Ethiopian canon, it would necessarily admit to the historical suppression of foundational texts, a move that could shake the very pillars of its claimed apostolic continuity. The theological implications are equally unsettling. Enoch's description of the Nephilim, giant offspring of angels and humans, alongside elaborate angelologies and cosmic judgments, are deeply at odds with the tidy eschatology and doctrinal orthodoxy of Rome. Accepting Enoch would open the door to questions about the nature of evil, divine justice, and even the fallibility of angels, doctrines that have been tightly controlled in Western Christianity for millennia. Furthermore, many of the additional Ethiopian books reveal a vision of Christ that emphasizes his divine wisdom and pre-existent cosmic role in ways that align more closely with early Gnostic interpretations than the synoptic tradition adopted by Rome. But fear rooted in theology alone cannot account for centuries of quiet distancing from the Ethiopian tradition. The Ethiopian Church represents an ancient, uncolonized Christianity, a Christianity that did not evolve under papal authority, did not partake in the Roman rites, and did not seek approval from Western centers of power. In a world where the Vatican has long positioned itself as the primary heir to apostolic succession, Ethiopia stands as a counter-narrative, a living witness to an alternative Christian history that was never beholden to the Latin West. The Vatican's caution may also stem from Ethiopia's long-standing claim to possess the Ark of the Covenant, housed in the chapel of the tablet in Aksum. While most of the Western world regards this claim with skepticism, the tradition remains a powerful testament to Ethiopia's sacred heritage. If this claim were ever substantiated, or even widely considered plausible, it would utterly reshape the geography of biblical history, placing Ethiopia, not Rome or Jerusalem, at the epicenter of sacred legitimacy. Moreover, during the era of European colonial expansion and missionary activity in Africa, the Ethiopian Church was seen as a theological obstacle, not a partner. Jesuit missionaries in the 16th and 17th centuries attempted to bring the Ethiopian Church under papal authority, but failed. These encounters were often marked by cultural arrogance and theological condemnation. Rome could not tolerate a fully African ancient Christian body that refused Roman authority, even as it mirrored apostolic practices far older than many Western traditions. The Vatican's memory of these failed missions lingers, not merely as a historical footnote, but as a reminder of its inability to control Ethiopia's spiritual autonomy. Thus, the fear is not merely academic or theological. It is existential. The Ethiopian Bible, in all its alienness and authenticity, challenges the Vatican's claim to universality, to completeness, and to spiritual supremacy. To fully acknowledge it would be to admit that the center of Christian gravity may not have always resided in Rome. It would open doors to long-buried histories, diverse canons, and suppressed voices. It would invite the faithful to imagine a Christianity not built solely on Roman foundations, but one shaped by African visions, Semitic rhythms, and ancient truths preserved in the highlands of Ethiopia. In recent decades, there has been a quiet but growing movement to explore these suppressed texts and traditions. Scholars of comparative theology and biblical history have turned to the Ethiopian manuscripts housed in monasteries such as those on Lake Tana or in Debra Libanos. And as the digital age increasingly democratizes access to ancient texts, the Vatican's ability to suppress or ignore alternative canons has diminished. Still, public acknowledgement remains scant. The Vatican's fear, if it can be called that, is the fear of losing control over a narrative centuries in the making. The Ethiopian Bible is not merely a collection of sacred texts. It is a living memory of a Christianity unmediated by Rome. And in that memory lies a power that has survived empires, colonizers, and the quiet hostility of Western theologians. Perhaps the real question is not why the Vatican fears the Ethiopian Bible, but whether the world is finally ready to hear what it has to say.